A few years back, we sold almost everything and moved into Airbnbs full time. It felt like a crazy thing to do, but it's been over 3 years and, well, here we are, still traveling full time. We've seen so many incredible places and we've had amazing experiences while being on the road, but I'd be lying if I said this lifestyle doesn't come with its challenges, and many times we've questioned whether this is something we actually want to continue doing. While we've also lived in our Airstream and still spend a lot of time RV camping, this video is going to focus on our time spent living in Airbnbs, and I'll save the pros and cons of living in an RV for another video. So it's pretty crazy to think that we've been living this lifestyle of traveling and moving around for 3 years now. 3 years ago, we were living in an apartment in Boulder, Colorado. Our lease was coming to an end. We had the crazy idea of, what if we move into Airbnbs full time instead of renewing our lease? We packed up our apartment in Boulder, Colorado. We decided to live in Airbnbs full time. Our first thought was kind of like, is that even possible? Do people do monthly rentals in Airbnbs? There was still so much out west that we had never seen before. What better way than to spend a significant amount of time in different towns out west, see if we can find a place we really fall in love with. Spoiler, we've fallen in love with so many places and now we can't pick a place to settle down. And we're currently back in Colorado, so it feels like things have kind of come full circle being back in Colorado with our 3-year travel anniversary. So it felt like a good time to go over all of the pros and cons of this lifestyle and if we think it's been worth it. So the first thing I want to talk about is budget. Airbnbs and short-term rentals are really expensive. If you're going on a vacation and staying somewhere for a week, it can get really pricey in an Airbnb. So we found that a lot of times, if you stay over 30 days in an Airbnb, there is almost always a monthly discount and the price dramatically decreases. I mean, we've seen some places on Airbnb where if we were to stay 2 weeks, the price is more expensive than the monthly rate, which is pretty crazy. And sometimes I have to play around with pricing a little bit. So for example, if we're only in the area for 28 days or 29 days, if I bump the days up to 30 or 31 nights instead, sometimes the price is less expensive. It seems that some of the taxes are removed if you stay over 30 days. I'm not sure what all the laws are behind that. However, that's just something we've found. It has saved us a significant amount of money. And our goal when we left our apartment in Boulder, Colorado was to try to keep our budget the same. So we took the amount that we were paying for rent and all of the utilities, and our goal was to be able to continue paying that amount every month while living in Airbnbs. We weren't sure if that was going to be possible. However, I'm happy to say that over the past 3 years, our average has been pretty identical to what it would be staying in one apartment, because when you're in an Airbnb, you're not paying for utilities, so you might pay a little more in the monthly rent. However, you're saving on fees and utilities. And of course, some months have been more expensive and some months have been much more affordable, but overall, our average has been really similar to what we were paying at our previous apartment. So we travel with 2 big dogs. This is Doug, this is Jackson, and they come everywhere with us. So it definitely is challenging sometimes to find a pet-friendly place. A lot of times if we're on Airbnb and you search for a place and then you filter by pet-friendly, over half of them disappear. So that has definitely been a little bit of a challenge. Thankfully, we've always found somewhere to stay. And as we continue to stay in Airbnbs, we continue to get good reviews from previous hosts that mention the dogs a lot of the time, how clean we keep the place, that we clean up after the dogs and everything. And we've been able to message some hosts that typically wouldn't allow pets, and they've been able to make an exception for us. We always make sure to take extra special care of those places because they're making such a kind exception for us. I'd be lying if I said it isn't a little bit challenging to have dogs in Airbnbs because a lot of hosts don't allow pets and, well, we can't go anywhere without them. So you get to go all over the country, huh? You've been to so many places. We always think this is Doug giving us a hug when he puts his head down. So sweet. Hi, buddy. Are you giving Mama a hug? Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you for the paw. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Say, are you coming? One of the best things about living in Airbnbs for a month or longer, and I think this one is pretty obvious, goes without saying, that you really get a feel for a place. A lot of times if you're just visiting for a week vacation or you're just staying there for a weekend, you don't really get a feel for a place, but when you're there for an extended period of time, you kind of get to find all the local spots and you get into a routine. You really find out a lot more about that town. Another major pro to this lifestyle is that we've been able to stay in some very unique places. So for example, we stayed on a ranch in Montana where there were horses right outside of our front door, and we also stayed on a llama farm in Wyoming where we would look out our window and there were probably 20 llamas. The host introduced us to them and taught us all about them, and it was just an amazing experience. And we found that when you're spending a month or more in a place, you really do start feeling like a local. Some places have honestly started to feel like home, and we end up being really sad when we have to leave. Whereas when you're going on a vacation and you're only spending a week there, you're typically doing all of the major, big, exciting things. We do all of those things when we first get to a place. However, as you spend more time there, you start to find all of the local kind of secret hidden spots. You know, we'll find really special dog walking spots that we'll go back to over and over again, or restaurants that we fall in love with that we continue to visit every week while we're there. And that's just something you don't really get when you're only there for a week. One great example of when we kind of felt like we were becoming a local is when we stay in southern Utah. We found a local rancher who sells meat to people in town, and we started buying meat from him, and it's probably some of the best meat we've ever had. And if we were just there for a weekend or a week, there's no way we would have found this guy and been able to buy such delicious local meat from him. But because we were staying there for a while, we had the opportunity to meet someone like that, and those experiences are just really cool.
You know, whenever I tell people what we do and what our lifestyle is like, oddly enough, one of the first things that people say is, wow, it must be nice to be in a place and not have to worry about unpacking and then packing up so quickly during your trip. Until someone said that to me about a year or so into traveling like this, it didn't really dawn on me that it is super nice to get to a place, and yes, it's a little bit hectic to unpack whenever we first get there and then get ready to pack up whenever we're leaving, but we have so much time in between unpacking and arriving and packing up and leaving. We don't have to worry about that because we're there for such a long period of time.
Another great thing is that we have made some really, really good friends on the road, and because we're in a place for so long, we might meet someone and then we're able to see them multiple times and really form a friendship. Whereas if we were only there for a short period of time, you might run into someone at a restaurant or on a trail or something, and then you probably would never see them again. But we've made a couple of our very best friends while traveling. And I think the very, very, very best thing about this lifestyle is that we get to bring Doug and Jackson everywhere with us because we're driving. Whereas if we were flying, we used to go on vacations and they wouldn't, okay, go by. And we typically would never be able to bring them with us because we'd be getting on a plane. But because we're driving from place to place, we're able to bring them with us and we're able to experience all of these amazing places with them by our side.
So that we can bring them with us everywhere, we even built a special platform in the back of our truck and removed the back seats just for the dogs.
So I think a lot of the good things about this lifestyle are pretty obvious. All of the things that I mentioned, we get to see all of these amazing places, experience new things all of the time. You'd think traveling all of the time, moving every month is absolutely perfect. Well, I'm here to tell you there are definitely some downsides to it too. So the first thing being is that you never feel like you are in your own space. So we get to a new Airbnb, and depending on whether it's somewhere that the host spends some of their time or if it's purely just a vacation rental, sometimes the host's things are in the Airbnb, or there's leftover things from previous guests, and some of the places we've stayed, it has just been difficult for that place to start to feel like home. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some places we've stayed where they have started to feel so much like home that at the end of our stay there, we feel pretty sad to leave because we start to feel so connected to the town and the place that we're staying, and it just feels kind of strange to... Doug and Jackson are
romping
right now. Good boy, Doug. This is what happens when I talk too much.
We call this WWE paw. instead of WWE Raw.
Sometimes when it's time to leave, we're feeling like this started to really feel like home, and we're just gonna walk out this door and never come back to this place, and it's kind of a strange feeling. But then there are also places where we have had a hard time making it feel like home, and by the end of our stay, we're feeling like, I probably wouldn't want to come back here. But sometimes not feeling like it's our own space can really make a difference in how the month goes. It's one of the reasons we love staying in the Airstream so much, is because we have all of our own stuff. Even just things like silverware and blankets and things like that make a big difference in making a place feel like it's your own home. The next downside is that it can be a little bit stressful to always have your next spot booked. Typically, we have all of our places booked out for at least 6 months, sometimes longer. And that's because we've been in positions where we haven't booked out that far, and it becomes really stressful and a little bit nerve-wracking to feel like you're not gonna have somewhere to stay if we're having trouble finding a place. So we always like to plan way far in advance, which brings me to another downside, is that with Airbnb, if you're booking in advance, you're paying a lot of things up front. If you're staying multiple months, sometimes they'll have payments every month where you won't need to pay everything all at once. But compared to having a typical mortgage or rent on a home or an apartment where you're just paying once a month, if you're booking in advance, you're paying a lot of money up front. The next sort of negative part about traveling full time is that when you live in one place, you typically have all of your established relationships like doctors. However, because we're traveling all over the place and our home base is Colorado, we have to come back here and we have to do all of our doctor's appointments, hair appointments. For example, I just got my hair cut for the first time in a year because I love my hairstylist and I didn't want to go anywhere else. And we're cramming all of those appointments into the time that we're staying here. So that definitely gets a little bit tricky. Now, things like the dentist and the eye doctor that we don't use our health insurance for, we can go anywhere. So we've gone to eye doctors in Utah, we've gone to the dentist in Utah. It doesn't need to be in our home base of Colorado. However, things like our regular doctor and whatnot, we have to come back to Colorado for. That can get a little bit tricky if you have a health issue pop up. For example, if you watched one of our recent videos where I was having some trouble with my eye, if I needed to go to my regular PCP, we would have had to come back to Colorado. And that is definitely a huge downside of traveling, is that you're not super close and it's not very easy to visit all of your doctors and even things like hairstylists. One other slight downside is that when we get to a place and we're not just spending, say, a weekend there, we do need to find all of the daily things. Like, we need to find a grocery store, we need to see if there's a vet nearby. We need to find all of the things that if you're living in one place, you become really familiar with and it's all second nature. You don't need to put every single thing in your GPS every time you get in the car. But when you're in a new place, as exciting as it is to, be in a totally new place and find all these new things, it is a little bit challenging that you don't know where anything is at all. You don't know the shops, you don't know the restaurants, you don't know the stores, and you pretty much need to start from scratch every time you get to a spot. But an upside to staying in a place for a month is that sometimes Paul and I will find a restaurant that we really, really love, and you'll say, oh, I wish I would have gotten this instead of that. And if you're just there for a couple of days, you typically don't have the chance to go back. But if we're there for a month, there have been some months where we love a restaurant so much, it's the only place we go for that month over and over and over again, which is really nice. We don't go out to eat too often, usually just once a week at the very most. So it's really fun when we do find a place that we love and we're able to go back a few weeks in a row. A huge challenge to us while we've been traveling has been finding dog sitters in places that we've been to, because sometimes we'll be in a place and we have to travel back home or somewhere for a wedding or whatever it might be. We have to completely start from scratch with finding a dog sitter. And if you have pets, you know how stressful it can be to leave your dog with someone that you're unfamiliar with. Thankfully, every experience we've had has been amazing with dog sitters, but along the way, we've found some sitters that we've really, really loved. They've been so good with Doug and Jackson, and we use them once and then we move on to another town, and it's such a bummer that we're like, if we lived here, we'd be able to use you all the time, be so comfortable with you watching our dogs. But then we go to a new town and we need to start from scratch with doing meet and greets with dog sitters, research and everything like that. And it's always very stressful to leave Doug and Jackson with someone new. So I would say that's definitely a huge downside for us. Another downside of living on the road and moving so much is, while I did mention that we have met some really great friends on the road, it still never feels like we have a community. So when you're staying in one place, you obviously have friends, family in the area, you're meeting new people, and you can really establish those relationships. However, constantly traveling definitely comes with the challenge of not feeling like you have a constant community, and that's something we definitely miss. One more bad thing about this lifestyle is that we are pretty much bringing everything we own with us at all times. So we have winter clothes, summer clothes, all of our belongings. We have a small storage unit, but there's not a ton of stuff in there. We do take pretty much everything we own with us. So that can be kind of a pain. If you're just going on a weekend trip or a week vacation, you can pack your suitcase, pick and choose what you bring, but it can get a little bit frustrating and a little bit overwhelming sometimes to have most of your belongings with you. And the last negative is that sometimes when we're booking a place, it's a place that we've never heard of. We don't know anything about, and we're taking a risk. Will we like the place when we get there, or will we get there and we're not really feeling it and we wish we wouldn't have booked that place? Thankfully, we found some really incredible small towns that I had never heard of before and turned out to be some of our very favorite places. However, there's definitely the risk that we will book something and end up getting there and it's just maybe not a place we would visit again. Some places that we had never heard of before traveling but ended up being some of our very favorite places of all time that we totally fell in love with were little towns like Stanley, Idaho, or Boulder, Wyoming, or Kanab, Utah, in southern Utah, which has so many incredible things around it. And these are places we had never heard of. So I don't know if we weren't looking for Airbnbs and it was the only place that we could find to stay, we maybe never would have come across them. So the question is, do we feel like the last 3 years of traveling have been worth it? And I would say absolutely. So even though considering all of the negative things that come along with it, which they're not even that bad, we've experienced so many places, made so many memories over the past 3 years that have just been so special to us. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, when we first started this lifestyle, we kind of thought, is this absolutely crazy? Is this even going to be possible? And we thought maybe we would do it for 6 months or so, but here we are, 3 years later, still traveling. I doubt we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. However, for right now, this lifestyle has been absolutely amazing. And now that we have our Airstream 2, we're able to spend time in Airbnbs and also in our Airstream, which does feel like our little home, so it's a great balance for us. We still love seeing new places. There's still so much to explore. So I would definitely say that even though it comes with some challenges, some days are kind of uncomfortable, you know, like packing up all of our things, moving to the next place, driving. The drive can sometimes be kind of long. Unpacking, that can always feel a little bit tiring. If you watched our last video, I mentioned that I felt like we had so many things and we were feeling a little bit frustrated with packing everything we own up into the car, taking it down the road to our next spot, which was more than just down the road. It was a pretty long drive. So there are definitely things that come along with this lifestyle that can be a little bit challenging, but we try to stay as positive as we can because at the end of the day, we do feel so grateful that we're able to live this lifestyle. We're able to see so many new places, make all these new memories. And as you know, most of the places we visit are outdoorsy places. So we have seen so many beautiful mountainous areas, beautiful desert canyons, just so many amazing places. So we definitely would not trade this time. We're so grateful we've been able to do this, and we would definitely recommend this lifestyle if you're able to do it. So that's gonna wrap up this video. If you're not already, we'd love if you subscribe to our channel so you can follow along all of our adventures and travels. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure.